Welcome to the very first istep tutorial video. We're going to be going through the 6th grade problem of the week. We're going to be talking about what it's really asking, how to solve, and then also what the istep looks for when it actually grades your student's problem, okay? So first up, when we approach a problem, we have to read it. And in my advice, if it's not too overwhelming, read it in its entirety, okay? So this problem is talking about Roger, my main man Roger. We got to evaluate his work in an expression shown. So they give us the original expression, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 steps, and in step 4 we get his final answer. So what they're asking us to do in part A, now just a heads up, if you see something that says part A, there's going to be a part B, all right, and maybe in part C, D, you never know how many they're going to have, okay? But I need to know that I'm going to read part A, and then I'm going to take a look at how many other parts there are. I like looking at an entire problem first before I get a plan of attack. Describe all errors made in Roger's work. Okay, so that's what we're going to do first, is look at what errors he may have made. Now, before I start, I just want to see if part B is connected to that. Part B, evaluate the expression. So we have to, 1, find Roger's mistakes and describe them, and then 2, actually show the correct way to solve this problem. Well, this is one of those rare times I think the istep is helping us. Because my advice, the best way to find errors in someone else's problem is to do the problem yourself. Now, this is so important, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme. Show your work. Because if I just start solving this in my head, and I come up with the answer, and then I go back to Roger's problem, I'm like, oh yeah, his answer's wrong. That's not going to give me credit. We have to identify the actual steps and what errors he made as he went through the problem. So, I'm actually going to start with part B. I'm going to evaluate this expression myself and then look at what the differences were for my work compared to Roger's. Now, just so that we can see this side by side, I'm going to show the work next to his steps. Now, hear me out. When you're taking the istep, you'll have the entire page you can see. I have this blown up so that you can see a little bit better during the video. I would not want to show my work here, because part B is where it wanted me to evaluate. So on the istep, all this work I have, I would show on part B, because that's organizing my work into the area that they are going to be grading and they want to see, all right? But for this purpose, we're going to show step by step right next to Roger's. So what do you do first? You always rewrite the problem. So we have 2, ooh, that is really thick. Let's see if we can get something a little thinner. 2, there we go. 1 plus 3 cubed minus 5 squared. All right. PEMDAS. Order of operations. So you may have heard PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I heard one kid came up with parents eventually make dogs antisocial. I don't recommend that one, but you can come up with anything you want to remember it. But it's parentheses and then exponents. Then multiplication and division, one doesn't outrank the other, they're on the same tier, and then addition and subtraction. Oh, look at what we got, parentheses. So that's the very first thing where my eyes should be going. Let's evaluate the parentheses first. 1 plus 3, it's tough. Good job. 4. All right, let's check. There's the original problem, and here's my step 1. All right, so far we agree with Roger, so I continue because I don't see any errors. What next? What next? PEMDAS, the E, exponents. So what I'm looking at now is my exponents. So I need to do 5 squared, and I need to do 4 cubed. All right? Now, one thing that I recommend is when you write this next step, and we already did it once, always check. So if I do 4 cubed, that's 4 times 4 times 4, right? You multiply it by itself 3 times, you get 64. Minus 5 squared, which is 25. All right, let's take a look. There was step 1, we matched. Step 2, oh, we go different. What is different? Once you see a difference, identify the difference. We still have the 2 on the outside. His 2 is 100% gone. So how did he get 8? What happened there? We'll look at the step above. How could you get 8 from the prior step? You see the 2 and the 4? So what did Roger do? How did he make 2 and 4 become 8? Hopefully you're realizing he multiplied. So what I'm going to do is put a little star next to step 2. I know right there he multiplied instead of where he should have done his exponents. This is just me putting notes off to the side. And yes, as you recognize now, my handwriting's atrocious, which is why I'm a math teacher, okay? Don't judge. Now, there's my first mistake, but let's keep going. As I look at his work, look what happened when he went to step 3. This man, Roger, loves to multiply. Because again, he did 5 squared. Notice we did 5 squared and it became 25. Good job, we did it correctly. He made 5 squared, 10. He made 8 to the third, 24. I see another mistake here. That should not have been 8 times 3 or 5 times 2. If it's an exponent, it's this number times itself, the number of the exponent. Okay? So we have another mistake. So let's finish our problem out and then come back and state his mistakes. So at this step, I'm still doing PEMDAS, order of operations. That's subtraction. When two things are smooshed, right next to each other, it's right outside the parenthesis, we're going to be multiplying. So this would give me 128, which gives me a final answer of 103. Okay, so clearly his final answer is wrong, but hear me out. When we're going to list our mistakes, we don't want you to say, his final answer is wrong. I agree with you, but that's not exactly what the istep is asking for here. Describe all, you see that this all is capitalized? That usually means it's important. All mistakes. So let's go back to what we saw first. I would state in step, what step was the first mistake? 2, Roger multiplied, and I'm going to abbreviate, I'm putting the little star. You should write out the word multiply, okay? I'm being lazy. Instead of doing his exponents. I know that was the first mistake I noticed. But again, it says all. Now, in step 3, we saw another mistake. So again, I'm going to start in step 3. Roger, and how did he get 8 and 3 to become 24? He multiplied those. But it was an exponent, so he should have taken 8 to the third power. So I can state it this way. Roger multiplied 8 and 3 as well as 5 and 2. Now, I just said what he did wrong. He should have had 8 times 8 times 8 and 5 times 5. Now, notice, there's a decent amount of writing there. There's a decent amount of writing. Let me tell you the temptation. I'm going to show you an example here of what another student did that the istep completely counted off points. Here's what a lot of students will do for this part. Step 2 should look like this. Step 3 should look like this. And that's all they say. Here's the bad part. Are you wrong? No. You're not wrong, but you're not right. Now, we'll talk about that in a second. They don't want to know what it should be as far as the actual steps should look like. They want you to identify a mistake in Rogers. So that's exactly what we did here. In step 2, boom, identified where the mistake occurred, and we identified the mistake and what should have occurred. Step 3, we identified where the mistake happened, what occurred, and what should have happened. That is what you need to do when identifying a mistake. Where did it happen? What was the mistake? What should have been done? Okay? That's very important. Now, and if you've done this, you already have part B done, right? Now again, one last reminder, on the istep, don't show the work here, show it down there. Okay? Show it in part B. But now we know our answer is 103. How many of you got it? I can't hear you, so you don't have to say it out loud. But that's good if you got it. If not, learn your PEMDAS, order of operations, do the actual math, And now we know how to describe an actual error by the way the ISTEP wants it. Now, last thing before we go. I wanted to show you this. This was a grading sample from last year. Remember I mentioned this? Look what this person did. On step 2, it's supposed to look like this. On step 3, it's supposed to look like this. And by the way, this person's not wrong. That is what it's supposed to look like. But look at this. Look at this score. I don't know if you can see it. They got a 2 out of 2 for computation because they computed correctly, right? And look, they did a good job, showed all their work for part B in part B. But look at this. Process score, 0 points. Do you understand this correct answer just got an F? That's why we need to learn how they're scoring you. You're not just telling me what's supposed to be this. Okay, when there's an error, where does it occur? What did they do wrong? What should they have done? Don't just tell me what it should be. Does that make sense? So, that is week 1 of your problem of the week for ISTEP for 6th grade. Hopefully it makes sense. Keep learning.